I watched my father go pale as the kitchen phone began to ring 5 minutes after he told me he'd sold my dream car to help my brother buy a beach villa. I didn't yell. I brushed road dust from my sleeve and said, "You'll want to answer that, Dad." 2 hours earlier, I'd turned off the coastal highway and passed the tired "Welcome to Bayshore" sign. I'd just flown home from deployment in Norway, my duffel still smelling like jet fuel. I wanted simple things, my old room coffee from Mom's chipped blue mug, and a quiet drive in the car I'd spent 3 years restoring. The driveway told another story. Dad's new bass boat sat where my car should have been. My brother's lifted truck hogged the curb. The garage bay where my car slept was empty. I found Dad at the counter eating lo mein while a fishing show shouted from the living room. "Hey, stranger," he said, "back from your snow vacation." "Hi, Dad," I said, "where's my car?" He kept chewing. "Which car?" I stared. "Dad." He finally swallowed. "I sold it." The words hit hard. "You what?" "I sold it," he said, firmer now. "Your brother needed help with the down payment. Beach villa at Sandbridge. Family helps family." "It was mine," I said, "titled in my name." He waved his fork. "Paperwork's paperwork. Be thankful," he smiled thinly, "you finally did something useful." There it was, son first, daughter if she behaves. Heat rose, then cooled. The sea taught me storms burn out, currents endure. "You sold it without asking," I said. "You were off playing soldier," he said. "You didn't need it. Your brother's got responsibilities. You'll get another." Part of me replayed years of scraped knuckles and late nights coaxing life into a seized engine. Another flipped through rules title registration consent. I remembered leaving the file with him before I shipped out. Trust is a door you don't notice until it swings the wrong way. I didn't shout. I went to my old room and called the only person who ever handed me a wrench without commentary, Hank from Harbor Garage. "If it isn't our iceberg pilot," he said, "back stateside." "I am," I said. "Hank, did someone bring in my car in the last month?" A sigh. "Your dad came with a buyer. Said he had the title signed over. They put her on a flatbed." "Did you see my signature?" "I saw paper," he said carefully. "Didn't look like yours." "Do you have the buyer's info?" "Florida business card, McCoy Motors. I'll text you." "Thanks," I said. Back in the kitchen, Dad had moved to the recliner TV, louder fork tapping the carton. I stood in the doorway. "What now?" he asked. "I'll need the file," I said. "Title insurance maintenance logs." "See," he said. "Adult business. It's in the hall closet, after I'm done eating." "I'll look now." He waved a hand. "Whatever." The closet smelled like cedar and dust. I found the file behind Christmas lights. It was thinner than it should have been. Inside oil change receipts, a faded registration, and a photocopy of a title with my name and his scrawl beside power of attorney. He never had my power of attorney. I photographed every page. At the table, I logged into the state title portal. A transfer had been initiated mid-month and completed 2 weeks later. Under consent, someone had checked parent guardian. I'm 33. Dad felt the air change. "What are you doing?" "Catching up," I said. "It's done," he snapped. "Don't make a thing out of family help. Your brother's closing is Friday." "Beach villa," I said softly. He rolled his eyes. Always dramatic. Hank's text buzzed Florida number McCoy Motors. I typed the VIN from memory. Then I breathed the way I do before stitching a wound steady and steady out. I made 3 quiet calls. One to the number on the card, a question about chain of custody, one to the DMV fraud line, one to a state trooper I knew from a storm exercise, just facts, no adjectives. Finally, I filed a report with local police. I did not say betrayal. I used unauthorized transfer and forged consent. When I was done, I washed my hands. I thought about the day that engine finally sang. Dad had called it a toy. I had called it earned. Anger buys 10 minutes of heat and a lifetime of apology. A plan buys time and sleep. I poured coffee into Mom's chipped mug. Dad cleared his throat. "You done with your paperwork?" "For now," I said. He nodded. "Good. Let's not drag this out. Your brother's wife is already picking tile." I looked at him, the fork glinting, the TV fish thrashing. For a heartbeat, I saw the man who taught me to ride a bike and also the man who kept score. Both were true. "This didn't need to happen," I said. "It needed to," he said. "Family helps family." "Stories have consequences," I said. He laughed. You and your big Navy words. I didn't answer. The house ticked refrigerator water heater, old clock. Then the kitchen phone rang the landline we keep out of habit, bell sharp as sleet. Dad flinched and looked at me. You'll want to answer that, I said. Why? Because people are about to ask for your side, I said. You should decide what it is. He rose slowly. The phone kept ringing. He picked up on the fourth. Hello, he said. Yes, this is he. I watched his face open then close, color drained like tide leaving a flat. He glanced at me as if I'd pulled a trap door. I hadn't. I'd only opened a window. I stepped to the back door. Outside gulls angled over the canal. Bayshore kept being Bayshore. Behind me, Dad said, Yes, officer, and then quieter, I understand. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I breathed in and out the way we do when we've done all we can without making it worse. Dad didn't say much after the phone call. He hung up, walked to the porch, and stood there with the stillness of a man who'd just realized the world had turned without him noticing. I didn't follow. There are silences you don't disturb. They do the talking for you. I spent the next morning walking through Bayshore. The town hadn't changed much, same gray shingles, same smell of salt and fried dough from the pier. The diner still opened at 6, and Old Man Greeley still held his coffee like it was a secret. Folks waved when they saw me. Small-town memory never forgets service members. Good to have you home, they said. Heard Norway's cold as a tax office. I smiled, nodded, didn't mention the heat sitting under my ribs. At Harbor Garage, Hank looked up from a carburetor and shook his head. Knew something was off when your dad said you were too busy to care about titles. You were never too busy for that car. He showed me the photocopy he'd kept, the one from the sale. Buyer wired the money same day. Florida plates. Your old man looked proud, like he'd done something noble. Noble, I said. That's one word for it. Want me to call around? Not yet. I stepped back outside. Across the street, the post office flag fluttered halfway up. A funeral, maybe, or bureaucracy. I remembered painting that car's hood one July evening while my father watched a ball game inside my brother drinking beer on the curb, telling me I'd never finish it. It had taken all summer, every scraped knuckle and late-night paycheck, but when the engine turned over, it felt like breathing after years underwater. At noon, I stopped at the Pier Cafe. The waitress, Linda, brought me coffee and pie. You look like someone doing math in her head, she said. Trying to balance an equation that doesn't add up. You'll get it, she said, topping the cup. You always did. I checked my phone. The DMV confirmation email had come through, case number assigned. Step 1. By afternoon, I drove out to Sandbridge. The air changed, cleaner, money-scented. Rows of pastel houses, SUVs gleaming in driveways. I found my brother's beach villa. It wasn't modest. 2 stories, white railing, a deck big enough for a marching band. His wife was out front arranging shells in a planter. Well, look who it is, she said, smiling like a realtor, back from saving the world. Something like that, I said. She looked uneasy. Your dad and Tom are inside planning the boat storage. Inside, my brother beamed. Sis, you see the place we're gonna rent half the year. Smart investment. You helped more than you know. I do know, I said. Dad sat at the counter flipping property papers. When he saw me, his smile tightened. You following me now? No, I said, just visiting what I paid for. He laughed, but the sound didn't stick. Always dramatic. The paperwork on the counter caught my eye. Property deed utilities insurance. The name printed under owner Richard Carter, not Thomas Carter. My father, not my brother. I looked at Tom. You know the villa's in Dad's name. He blinked. What? Dad's voice sharpened. Temporary measure. Banks prefer older credit. Don't start twisting family business. I turned to Tom. He sold my car for this, and he's the one who owns it. You might want to read before you sign. Tom's face drained. His wife's hand froze on the counter. Enough, Dad barked. We don't air laundry in front of outsiders. I nodded. Right. You prefer to sell it. I left before the silence cracked. Outside gulls circled. My reflection in the SUV window looked calm. Inside, old anger found a rhythm but not a voice. That evening I met Trooper Hayes at the cafe. He'd driven in plainclothes, baseball cap low. Got your report, he said. Forgery on a title's serious, especially with interstate transfer. You sure you want to press this? I want what's fair, I said. He nodded. Sometimes fair means messy. I've seen messy, I said. This is tidy by comparison. He promised to check the VIN trail and left. I watched his taillights fade into the fog that rolls off the bay when the tide changes. At home, Dad sat in the recliner again. No TV this time, just him and the ticking clock. You called the cops, he said without looking up. I filed a report, I said. Same thing. Not really. Reports deal in facts, not revenge. You think you're better than us now, he said, because you wore a uniform. No, I said, because I earned what I had. He looked up, eyes small. You think you're perfect. You left. You always leave. I went to serve, I said. He scoffed. That's what you call running away. My voice stayed low. You could have just asked me for help. I would have given it. He said nothing. The refrigerator clicked off. The house exhaled. Later, I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window listening to the crickets and the distant hiss of the bay. In the dim reflection, I saw the outline of my uniform jacket hanging on the chair. Some nights dignity feels heavier than armor. I thought of Mom, her steady hands, her way of making peace between us. She'd passed 5 years ago, but sometimes I still heard her in the quiet. Be the calm in their storm, she used to say. Morning would bring answers. VIN checks, title confirmations, maybe a call from Florida. For now, I just breathed. Somewhere down the hall, Dad snored a sound that once meant safety, now just distance. In the gray light before dawn, my phone buzzed. Message from Hayes, confirmed forged signature, buyer cooperating, expect contact soon. I set the phone down and whispered to the dark. 5 minutes later, Dad got a call from the police. It replayed like a loop in my head, not triumph, just inevitability. I didn't want him ruined. I wanted him to see what he'd done and still find a way back. But first, he had to stop pretending nothing ever happened. Outside, the first gull screamed over the water. The day began again, same as always, pretending nothing had changed until someone answers the phone. The next morning, the air was heavy with that briny mist that clings to bayshore before the sun has the nerve to rise. I sat on the back steps drinking coffee that had gone lukewarm while my mind kept circling one question: why? Not just why did he sell it, I already knew the surface answer, but why did he always have to make me small first? When I was a kid, he used to tell people I was his stubborn one. The word meant different things depending on who was listening. At church, it was a proud chuckle. At home, it was a warning. Maybe that's why I joined the Navy, to prove that stubborn could build something, not just break it. By 7, I was already at Hank's garage. He looked like he hadn't slept either. Got news, he said, waving a grease-smeared envelope. Inside were copies of shipping forms. Guy in Florida didn't even drive the thing. Turns out your car's sitting in a warehouse waiting on inspection. He had a bad feeling about the title, said the signature looked like it was traced. So it's still there. He nodded. If the cops move quick, you'll get it back in one piece. I smiled for the first time in days. You're a good man, Hank. He shrugged. I like happy endings, even mechanical ones. I walked out to the parking lot and called Trooper Hayes. He picked up on the first ring. Morning, Carter. Morning. My friend at the garage found a Lead the Buyers cooperative. Already on it, he said. Florida PD confirmed the VINs flagged. Once we verify the forged signature, we can classify it as fraud and theft. It'll be up to you whether you want to press criminal charges. I just want my car back, I said. That's what everyone says at first. I hung up, knowing he was probably right. Revenge sounds simple until it lands in your lap like a live wire. By 10, I was back home. Dad was in the living room sorting through old mail, pretending to be busy. Morning, I said. He grunted. State trooper called. He didn't answer. His shoulders stiffened. They had questions, he muttered finally. I told them it was a misunderstanding. Was it? He looked up. You think I meant to hurt you? I was trying to help your brother. He's starting a family. You could have asked, I said. Instead, you forged my name. He slammed the stack of letters down. Because you'd have said no, you always say no. You make everything about principles. The world doesn't run on principles. It runs on people doing what they must for family. I took a breath. And you call that family selling something that didn't belong to you. For a moment, I saw something flicker across his face. Shame, maybe, or just fatigue. But he buried it quick. You've been gone too long. You forgot how things work here. I turned away before I said something I'd regret. Outside, the neighbor Mrs. Harris was watering her hydrangeas. She waved. "Your dad doing okay?" "Depends who you ask," I said. She shook her head. "He's proud, that one. Pride'll starve a man quicker than hunger." She didn't know she'd just written the headline for my whole childhood. That afternoon, I went through my deployment chest. Between folded uniforms and duty logs, I found the envelope I'd mailed home before I left for Norway. Inside was the original copy of the title unsigned pristine. Proof. I took a photo and sent it to Hayes. His reply came quick. "Got it. That seals it." The hours crawled after that. Dad didn't leave the house. The phone rang twice, unknown numbers he didn't answer. By evening, the silence between us had weight. I remembered Mom again, how she'd sit at this same kitchen table writing grocery lists, smoothing every crease like peace could be ironed into paper. She used to say, "One day you'll understand your father's fear isn't anger, it's helplessness dressed up." Maybe she was right, but even helplessness has consequences. That night, I met with Hank again at the diner. The neon light buzzed above us, painting everything pink and tired. "You could press it hard," he said between bites. "He'd get a record. Might teach him." "I don't want a record," I said. "I want him to stop pretending the rules bend for him." Hank nodded slowly. "Sometimes that's worse than a record." I left a 20 on the counter and stepped out into the cool air. The sky was full of stars, honest, unchangeable things. When I got home, the porch light was off. I found Dad sitting in the dark. "Police called again," he said. "I know." "They said you're not pressing charges yet." "Not yet," I said. "Why not?" "Because I still believe people can do the right thing without a courtroom telling them to." He let out a bitter laugh. "You sound just like your mother." "Thank you," I said. He didn't answer. Later, lying in bed, I thought about the car where it sat in that Florida warehouse, dust settling on its hood. Somewhere inside me, anger gave way to something else, pity maybe, or sorrow for what pride costs a family over time. But forgiveness isn't surrender. It's the quiet decision to stop letting someone else's choices define your peace. At midnight, my phone buzzed again. "Hayes, we've got a hearing scheduled. Need your signature tomorrow to finalize recovery." "You did the right thing, Carter." I stared at the message until the words blurred. Did the right thing, maybe, but right never feels clean. It just feels necessary. Down the hall, I heard Dad's door close softly. It was the sound of someone who knows the tide's turning and still hopes the water won't reach him. I pulled the blanket up and whispered to the dark, "Let it come then. Let the tide do its work." The morning sun cut through the blinds in thin gold lines falling across the kitchen table like a crime scene grid. The coffee pot hissed and sputtered, filling the room with that familiar scent I used to associate with peace. Now it just smelled like waiting. Dad sat across from me, pretending to read the newspaper. His glasses were perched low, but his eyes hadn't moved down the page once. The front headline talked about fishing permits and county taxes, safe topics for safe people. We weren't either anymore. "Court hearings in 2 days," I said quietly. He folded the paper, slow as confession. "You made your point." "I didn't make a point," I said. "I made a report." He grunted. Same thing. I studied him, the deep creases around his mouth, the rough hands of a man who used to build boats for neighbors, fix fences, drive carpools. I remembered him clapping from the bleachers when I enlisted, saying I'd finally do something that matters. Somewhere between that moment and now we'd both lost something we didn't know how to name. "You could end this," I said. "Tell them what you did, sign a statement, and it's done. You'll pay restitution, no record. But if you keep pretending, it gets worse." He leaned back, jaw tight, "And let everyone know my own daughter turned me in." "You want to humiliate me?" I shook my head. "You did that to yourself." His chair scraped as he stood. "You think you're so righteous? You left this family to go play hero overseas while I kept it together." I kept my voice low. "You didn't keep it together, you kept it convenient." He turned toward the window, hands in his pockets. "I did what I thought was right." "No," I said softly. "You did what was easy." The air between us thickened. Then, the phone on the counter buzzed a text from Hayes recovered vehicle en route to state impound. "Need you present at noon to sign." I gathered my folder and keys. "I'll be gone for a few hours." He didn't turn. Don't expect me to beg forgiveness. I don't, I said. I just hope you eventually understand what it cost. At noon, the state impound lot smelled like hot asphalt and old rubber. The officer led me to a gated section where my dream car sat dusty but whole. Its paint had dulled a little, but it was still mine, the proof that hard work outlasts betrayal if you keep your hands steady. You're lucky, the officer said. Most don't get recovered this clean. Luck's not the word, I said. Persistence, maybe. He smiled, that too. I signed the release papers. The pen trembled just once when I reached the line marked owner. It felt like reclaiming not just a car but a piece of my own name. When I got home, Dad was on the porch. He watched as the tow truck backed into the drive. The driver nodded to me. She's all yours again, ma'am. Dad's mouth opened-closed. You got it back. I did, I said. He stared at the car eyes, unreadable. Guess they believed you. They believed the paperwork, I said. The truth helped. He rubbed his neck the way he used to after long days fixing motors. What happens now? You'll get a notice. They'll want your statement. He looked down. And if I don't? They'll come for it, I said. He flinched, then laughed bitterly. Police paperwork, Justice. You sound just like your mother when she got tired of me. I didn't respond. I could have said maybe she was right, but the silence did it for me. After the tow truck left, we stood there. Him on the porch, me by the car, the afternoon humming with cicadas. He finally said, I didn't mean for it to go this far. It always goes this far, I said. You just stop seeing the road behind you. That evening, my brother showed up. His beach tan couldn't hide the nerves. Hey, he said, avoiding my eyes. Dad told me you called the cops. I filed the report, I said. He shifted his weight. You could have come to me first. I tried. You wouldn't listen. You were too busy measuring tile samples. He sighed. He told me you didn't care about the car anymore. And you believed him. I guess I wanted to, he admitted. Made things easier. We stood there for a moment, the kind of silence that could rebuild or destroy, depending on who spoke next. I'm not out to destroy him, I said finally, but he can't keep acting like this. Someone had to say stop. My brother nodded slowly. He's scared, you know. Good, I said. Fear's a start. He looked down at the car. You'll forgive him. When he asks for it, I said, not before. He gave a small guilty smile. Mom would have handled this better. Mom would have handled him better, I said. I'm not Mom. He left soon after. I stayed on the porch, watching the streetlights blink on one by one. In another house, another life, this could have been just a quiet evening. But here it was the pause before the final reckoning. Later that night, I found Dad sitting at the kitchen table, hands folded over a yellow notepad. Writing your speech, I asked. He glanced up. Statement, he said. Figured I'd tell them what happened. That's a good start. He hesitated. You're not pressing criminal charges. Not unless you lie. He nodded slowly. Fair enough. We sat in silence a while, two stubborn Carters pretending to be made of stone. But under it something shifted, just a tremor of understanding maybe. The kind that takes years to build and seconds to break. When I stood to leave, he said quietly, You didn't yell. I've done enough yelling in my life, I said. Now I just let consequences do the talking. The next morning when the police came for his formal statement, I was already gone down by the pier watching the water move. I didn't want to see him escorted into the patrol car, but I needed to know it was happening. I watched from a distance as he shook the officer's hand before stepping inside. No cuffs, no shouting, just a quiet man finally answering for something bigger than pride. And when they drove off, the wind carried the faint sound of gulls crying over the bay, like the sea itself sighing in relief. The morning of the hearing, Bayshore was wrapped in fog thick enough to hide from your own thoughts. I drove to the courthouse in silence, my dream car parked safe at Hank's garage, clean legal waiting. The sound of gravel under the tires was steadier than my breathing. Inside, the air smelled of coffee and polished wood. My father sat near the front seat, pressed too perfectly, as if neat lines could erase the messy ones behind him. My brother sat 2 seats over hands, clasped eyes red from whatever realization had finally hit him. The judge read through the paperwork. Hayes was there too, calm, factual, explaining how the forged signature matched my father's handwriting. I didn't look at Dad while he listened. I'd spent years looking at him. Now I wanted to hear who he really was without the mask of family. When the judge asked if I wished to press full charges, I stood. "No, Your Honor," I said. "I just want restitution and acknowledgement." The word echoed. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was the first brick on that road. Dad nodded stiffly. "I'll make it right," he said, voice barely audible. The judge signed the final document, stamped it, and said, "Then let this be a lesson in trust, Mr. Carter." Outside, the air broke open into sunlight. The fog thinned like guilt easing its grip. Hayes caught up to me near the steps. "You did the right thing," he said. "I did the necessary thing," I replied. "Right will have to grow from there." He smiled. "That's usually how it works." I walked to the diner, the same one that had watched me grow up through every stage teenager, sailor, officer, stranger. Linda poured coffee before I asked. "Heard it went your way," she said. "It went the honest way," I said. She gave a knowing nod. "Those don't always match, but I'm glad they did this time." That afternoon I went to Hank's garage. He stood beside the car grinning, clean as a whistle, paperwork straight, titles yours again. I ran my hand along the hood. The paint was warm under the sun, and for the first time it didn't sting to look at it. "Thank you, Hank." He shrugged. "Glad to see it home." Home. Funny how that word can lose its meaning and then earn it back in one breath. When I got back to the house, the police cruiser was gone. Dad's truck was still there, door left open like he'd stepped out mid-thought. The screen door creaked as I entered. He sat at the table, same yellow notepad in front of him. "They said it's settled," he murmured. "It is." He rubbed his temples. "I told them I forged it. Said I thought I was helping family." "That's what you always say when you hurt someone," I said softly. He winced. "I didn't realize how much that car meant to you." "It wasn't about the car," I said. "It was about respect. You taught me how to work hard, but you never believed I could own the result." He swallowed hard. "Guess I didn't know how to let go of being needed." We sat there quiet. The fridge hummed, the clock ticked, and somewhere outside a lawnmower started up normal life, refusing to wait for our apologies. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "I believe you," I answered. "But believing isn't the same as forgetting." "I don't expect you to forget," he said. "I just hope you remember the good parts, too." "I do," I said. "That's why I didn't destroy you." He nodded slowly, tears he didn't want me to see pooling at the corners of his eyes. Later that week, my brother came by. He looked like he hadn't slept much either. "They froze the villa account," he said. "Dad signed it all back over to me." "That's fair," I said. He hesitated. "I didn't thank you." "For what?" "For stopping it before it got worse. I would have been stuck in his debt forever." I gave a faint smile. Sometimes saving someone doesn't look like rescue. It looks like letting them fall just enough to wake up. He exhaled. "You sound like Mom." Guess she taught us both more than we realized. When he left, the house felt quieter, not empty, just settling, like dust after demolition. Something new could be built if we were careful. That night, I sat on the porch. The car was parked across the street, catching moonlight on its hood. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to guard it. It was safe, and so was I. Dad joined me after a while, 2 mugs in hand. He handed me one. "Still like it black." "Always," I said. He looked out toward the car. "You think we can fix this?" "Not like it was," I said, "but maybe like something new." He nodded. "I'll take that." We drank in silence, the kind that doesn't bite anymore. Inside the house, the phone rang once and stopped. Dad didn't flinch this time. In the weeks that followed, the whispers in town faded. People always tire of gossip once the lesson's clear. I went back to work at the base part-time civilian contract. The discipline felt familiar, the order, the quiet rules that make sense when family ones don't. Dad started volunteering at the Veterans Hall. Tom came around more. We spoke about small things, first whether fishing the price of gas. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was human again. And one evening as the sun melted into the bay, Dad said, "You were right. Easy isn't the same as right." I smiled. "Now you sound like Mom." He chuckled. "Took me long enough." I didn't tell him that was apology enough. Some truths work better unspoken. When I closed the house up that night, I passed the car one more time. Its reflection shimmered in the porch light, steady, loyal, whole. like the parts of us that survive the worst storms and somehow still start in the morning. It's strange how quiet a house can feel after the noise dies down. The phones stopped ringing, the whispers stopped traveling down the street, and for the first time in months I could hear the steady rhythm of my own heartbeat again. Bayshore was sliding back into its usual calm fishermen heading out before sunrise, coffee brewing by 6, and the scent of the ocean creeping in through open windows. I spent most of my mornings in the garage polishing the car. It had become less about restoring metal and more about restoring something inside me. The sound of the buffer spinning against the paint was hypnotic, soft, patient, forgiving. Hank stopped by one morning, leaned against the doorframe and said, "You know it's good seeing you work on something that doesn't fight back." I smiled. Maybe that's why I like machines. They only break when you forget to take care of them. He chuckled. Can't say the same for people. He was right. A week later, I found Dad sitting on the back porch. The light fell across his face softer than I'd seen it in years. He looked older, not by time, but by truth finally catching up. He cleared his throat when he saw me. "Got a letter from the court. Everything settled. Records clean. Just restitution payments left." I nodded. "That's good." He hesitated. "I started helping down at the Veterans Hall. Figured they could use another pair of hands." "That's even better." We sat in silence for a while, sipping coffee. It wasn't awkward anymore, just quiet, the kind of quiet you earn after too much noise. "I've been thinking," he said finally, "about that day, about what I said." "You don't need to repeat it," I said gently. "I know. I just want you to know I didn't sell that car because I hated you. I sold it because I thought I was saving your brother. I didn't see that I was losing you instead." I looked out at the yard, at the weathered fence we never fixed at the same patch of grass where he once taught me to change a tire. "You always tried to fix everything with a wrench," I said. "Some things just need listening." He smiled faintly. "Guess I never had the right tool for that." "Maybe now you do," I said. That evening, my brother came by. He brought his 2 kids, a boy and a girl, and a bag of groceries. "Dad said you like teaching people to change oil," he joked. "Only if they don't mind getting dirty," I said. We spent the evening cooking dinner together. The kids asked about my Navy work, wide-eyed and curious. My brother watched me the way people do when they're seeing you for the first time without the old family script. After the kids went to bed, he said quietly, "You know, when Dad sold your car, I thought you'd never talk to us again." "I thought about it," I admitted. "But running away doesn't fix the leak, it just moves it." He nodded. "I'm glad you stayed." "So am I said. Weeks passed. The air grew warmer, the bay calmer. Dad came by one afternoon with a stack of old photos, me in uniform, him at the shipyard, Mom holding a pie between us. "You remember this?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "That was the last summer before I deployed." He looked down at the picture, his thumb tracing Mom's smile. "She'd be proud of you. Probably disappointed in me, though." "She'd say what she always said," I replied. "You can't undo what's done, but you can decide what it means." He nodded slowly. "Then I guess it means I still have work to do." He stood, placed the photo on my counter, and patted my shoulder before leaving. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was something better real. That night, I took the car for a drive along the coast. The engine purred like forgiveness, not loud, not showy, just steady. The ocean stretched out beside me, endless and familiar. I thought about all the things we inherit that aren't written in wills: pride, silence, and the choice to break the cycle or repeat it. When I stopped by the pier, the horizon was painted gold. I sat on the hood and watched fishermen packing up for the day. One of them waved. I waved back. Life keeps moving, I thought. You either move with it or get stuck guarding what's already gone. As I drove home, I felt lighter. The past didn't vanish, it just stopped steering. When I pulled into the driveway, Dad was waiting on the porch. "You fixed the rattle," he said. "Yeah," I said, "just a loose bolt." He smiled, a real one this time. "Wish everything were that simple." "Maybe it is," I said, "if you care enough to tighten what matters." He laughed softly. "You always did talk like your mother." "Guess that's my best trait," I said. He nodded, then looked at the car. "She's beautiful." "She always was," I said. "You just didn't see her for what she was worth." "I do now," he said quietly. We stood there for a while, the sunset fading behind us, the sound of waves carrying through the air. There was nothing left to prove, just the steady rhythm of understanding finding its way home. I didn't make the decision in a rush. It came slowly while rubbing a circle of shine into the hood while passing Mom's picture while listening to the gulls over the canal. One afternoon I set the buffer down and said to the empty garage, "It isn't about the metal anymore." The sentence sat in the dust-sweet air until it felt true. That evening I drove the coast road with the windows down. Dad was on the porch when I returned, 2 coffees cooling beside him. His waiting look used to read as anger, now it looked like hope with its hands in its pockets. "Take a ride," I asked. "With you," he said. "With me." We didn't talk at first, past the pier, the diner, the shipyard where he'd worked enough overtime to pay for braces and Christmases. Sun slid toward the water and gilded the dash the way it used to gild his knuckles when he held a wrench. "Feels good," he said, hand in the wind. "She purrs when you treat her right," I answered. He cleared his throat. "I wrote some letters to the court the buyer to you." He patted his pocket. "I keep rewriting the last one." "You don't have to," I said. "I do," he said. "Forgiveness ought to find the door open." We parked by the Veterans Hall. The marquee announced a fundraiser for a scholarship single-parent service members finishing school. Inside tables carried silent auction donations, quilts gift baskets, a weekend at a bed and breakfast. "I'm thinking of donating the car," I said. He stared. "After all this?" "Because of all this," I said. "It taught me more as a symbol than it ever will as a prize." "You sure you'll be okay without it?" "I wasn't okay with it when it stood between us," I said. "Maybe it's time it stood for something that outlives us." A week later, we held a small ceremony in the parking lot. Neighbors, a high school color guard lemonade sweating in paper cups. Hank wore a clean shirt. Linda from the diner brought a pie that looked like a flag if you squinted kindly. My brother came with his kids. Their marker signs read, "Thank you, vets." I said a few words. "This car was my dream once. It taught me patience and grit. But dreams can hold you in place. Today she becomes a bridge, a way to move someone else forward." Dad stepped up unexpected. He didn't read from his pocket. "I've been wrong about worth," he said. "I thought it was what you could park in a driveway or sign your name under. Turns out it's what you can give away and still have more of." Pride took more from me than any court could. I want my grandkids to learn different. He took my hand. It felt like passing a tool across years. We signed the transfer. The program director explained how the auction would fund childcare and textbooks for sailors, finishing nursing degrees, and electricians' apprenticeships. The crowd clapped, the small, honest clap of people who know what dollars can actually do. Afterward, Dad and I sat on the curb in the thin palmetto shade. "I kept thinking, if I made things easier for your brother, I was being a good father," he said. "I was just choosing the child who asked the loudest." "Mom used to say the quiet child is still a child," I said. He smiled at that, eyes bright. She did. We drove home in my sensible sedan. It didn't purr. It worked. He offered to change the oil the old-fashioned way this weekend and show the grandkids. He lit up more than the car ever had. The next month brought small changes. Dad listened longer before answering. Tom checked paperwork twice. The kids learned to tighten bolts in the right order and loosen their tongues only for the truth. I slept easily. Bayshore kept being Bayshore sun on shingles, fog like lace over the bay, a town of people trying again. One evening the program director called. The auction had gone better than anyone expected. "Your car turned into 3 scholarships," she said. "One's for a corpsman who wants to be a physician assistant." I sat on the back steps with the phone to my ear and the smell of cut grass in the air and felt that light ache of joy that comes from letting go and finding your hands useful again. Dad brought 2 lemonades. "Good news?" he asked. "Great," I said and told him. He nodded toward the sky, a habit since Mom died. She'd say that's a better parking spot than any driveway. We laughed. It wasn't careless laughter. It was the kind that knows what it costs to earn a quiet evening. When the call ended, I thought about what I wanted to leave behind besides a service record and a drawer of folded flags. Maybe the strength isn't the volume of your voice, it's the steadiness of your choices. Family isn't the freedom to take, it's the responsibility to ask. Justice done without hate becomes education everybody can live with. If you're listening, and your own kitchen phone is ringing, if pride or silence has worn its handprint on your shoulder, answer it. Speak gently. Tell the truth. And if you've been hurt by someone who should have loved you better, remember you can set a boundary without setting the world on fire. The tide will do the rest. It always does. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this story reminded you of someone you love, share it with them. If it gave you a little peace, leave a note and tell me where you're listening from. And if you'd like more stories about honor that heals instead of hurts, you're welcome to stay. I'll keep the porch light on.